Showdown. I'm Mark Kaysen, and we are joined by Joe. I can't even tell you. Anyway.
Hey, well, you making fun of our president's first name?
Yeah.
Come
Hi,
on.
Joe. How are you?
Well, it all depends on what you mean by how and are and you. It's kind of like what is this, okay?
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, we will be joined here in just a few seconds. We'll have Stephanie here as well.
No.
So, but anyway, in fact, there's Stephanie. So Stephanie Harmon, of course, on Wednesday, February 28th. You notice that you can see on the screen Joe. You see Joe?
Yep. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Stephanie, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. And yourself?
Well, it all depends. I mean, whenever you're dealing with Kaysen, it's like how you feel before and then how you feel after. So you really got to get me after, and then I'll tell you how I feel.
I understand. Trust me.
I know you do.
Yeah. Believe me, you actually don't understand because I mean, only because I'm just saying the combination of Joe and those glasses, and I don't even know what he's got on his head.
I got the Biden glasses on and the
Okay.
first name Joe. I mean, I got to be good to go.
Good to go. Well,
Yeah.
All right.
it's working for him, sort of. In fact,
Well, I mean, I can do the white hair too,
Yeah.
okay? But I
I was
prefer
going
to
to say
work,
before I let you on, we ought to give you a cognitive test.
go ahead, do it. Go ahead,
Okay.
give
Yeah.
it to me. I'll give you answers all over the place. But
I'm sure of that. Well, let me ask you first. Probably the most important question that I really have on my mind. Do you think that this year, and maybe even sooner rather than later, that Molina will be the manager?
well, I don't know how well he would do managing the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, your guess is as good as mine on that.
Yeah, I happen to think it would be the best thing they could do.
The Chiefs?
No,
Oh, I mean, he could probably do
Yeah.
that. If most of their, I mean, it depends if Travis Kelce can speak Spanish.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Okay. As I said, I would think that the Cardinals could do themselves a lot of good. Get rid of that guy. I mean, he's horrible. Ollie. Get rid of him. We need Molina. You don't care.
Stephanie, I'm going to defer to you. What do you think?
I don't know anything about sports. I just
No.
I don't care.
Well,
Throw the ball.
Joe would say, I don't know anything about sports. So, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that you're all revved up about Baldwin, Alex Baldwin.
Yeah, he's my buddy in this case. I don't know. Stephanie, are you following the Baldwin shooting at all, or no?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? I mean, you got the girl, the Gutierrez girl, and she's supposed to be an armor, and she's supposed to check out everything. And just think about this: how many hundreds, if not thousands, of movies have we seen in our lifetime with guns being fired and westerns and everything else? How many times can you recall that you've ever heard of a report of somebody being shot inadvertently on a movie set? Mark, you watch a lot of movies. How many?
Well, the answer is zero.
I was going to say none. I think it was a setup, personally.
Okay, there are people that are in that camp too, but I mean, set up to make Alex Baldwin look bad. Is that what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I do.
I think
It makes no sense.
right.
It makes absolutely no sense.
Because look, you can blame that armor lady. You could blame her, but the truth.
And she is responsible.
Well,
But
okay, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you can blame her, but you know that nobody makes a mistake in those situations. Somebody did something intentionally And I don't know, maybe you will find out who it was. I don't
Yeah,
know.
somebody put live rounds in there, period.
Yeah.
Right.
Somebody put a live round in there.
And I don't think that Alex Baldwin had anything to do with this at all.
Mm-mm. Nope, neither do I.
Don't you think a lot of people are going to take that point of view?
Well, yeah, but I mean, he's burnt a lot of bridges, apparently, from me just following this in general. A lot of people just don't like him personally. Uh, that's a mild word, not liking him. So they're really indifferent about anything that may come out to him. It'll be a civil suit for sure, and he'll lose on that end just because he's the producer of the entire set.
Sure.
But it's kind of curious to me that the young lady, the Gutierrez girl, she was an armor, and her father is a long-time Hollywood armor. I mean, for over 30 years, he trained her. And the problem comes in with her is, now she's kind of changed her story. You can kind of understand right on the spot. She was nervous and upset and blah, blah, blah. And you can kind of understand that. But then all of a sudden you hear stories about the movie she did just before that with Nicolas Cage. They wanted her off the set because there was a number of rounds being fired, inadvertently on the set. Not by her particularly, but she's supposed to be in charge of all weapons on the set, period. And when they're handing a gun to somebody and they say cold, that's what it means. It means it has blanks in it.
Well, that's why I can't imagine, except for what you're saying about him being the producer in terms of a civil suit.
Yeah,
but outside of that, how can you hold him responsible? Somebody yells cold. I mean, this is always done, as you pointed out, program after program, week after week, year after year. So he can't be expected to figure out anything beyond that.
No, but they've been bringing up the fact that the day before this happened, his entire cinematography crew walked out because of safety concerns. They quit that day. They brought in a whole new crew of people on the camera people and some of the other union people involved.
But not necessarily because they thought they were going to be shot.
No.
Yeah.
They just thought it was sloppy.
Right.
And some rounds had gone off the day before. There was some thought that somebody maybe had been target practicing out there in the desert. The reason I bring this up, even with Alec Baldwin, because this is something that's not political, really, particularly, it is the fact that you can see how complex things can get when you get into political wars, even as small, it's not small, as the city of St. Louis. You look at things as they are, but they're not really as they are because you just don't have that information input. We make a lot of judgments just based upon what we see. And this case is the same. This is being scrutinized nationally, and because it's a small thing. I mean, a round gets in a gun that's supposed to be cold and shoots a person inadvertently. That should be pretty simple, but it's not looking that way now. I mean, Stephanie brought up a point that a lot of people are thinking right now that it was a setup. They can't understand how that bullet got in there inadvertently. A live round.
Well, for example, Michael on Facebook is asking, why was he pointing the gun at her in the first place? It's a person that got shot. And look, you see programs all the time, people pointing guns at each other, shooting them, and doesn't that always happen?
That particular take was done 4 times before, right in a row. Where he pulled the gun and point. Right, that's done all the time.
Right.
I mean, that's a canard. When they bring that up, that'll slowly be dispelled. But when a gun is handed to him and it's said cold, I mean that's
the end of the story. I would think.
It.
I would think they'll be able to trace back from who had the gun first and how it just moved into his hands.
Yeah,
I would think that
because it moved from the armor to the assistant producer to Alec Baldwin, and that's all in the pre-filming. You see that,
right? And who loaded it? Who loaded the gun?
The armor.
So
She
there we
said she
go.
did.
That person should be held responsible.
Well, and she will be. She will be held
Hmm.
responsible, whether involuntary manslaughter. But it's just where it gets that way, and you hear the attorneys get in here. They make something that we had seen simple. The armor should be responsible because they are. It just doesn't
Hmm.
happen that often. And then the night before, she went to a party where she used some cocaine and some beer. See, that all gets thrown into this mix, and so things become a little bit more complex that way. And also that the crew the day before walks out. They had to get a whole new crew. So getting back to the problems with politics today, particularly in the city of St. Louis, um, you hear wonderful things on one hand and very bad things on the other. And the very bad things are sometimes they're so small. They happen so infrequently, but it will overwhelm the better things that may happen in and around the St. Louis region.
So what are you worried about as far as being the number one negative thing that you're hearing? Because
Well,
I don't hear anything that has any substance to it at all, except there's one complaint that I hear a little often, and that is this money that was supposed to come from the federal government that was for emergency purposes, and supposedly somebody's holding it up. And we talked to a lady from Kansas City last week who said she was a member of the House of Representatives, and she said that in a city that has less than 500,000 people, that money actually goes to the state. And so we're talking about the state, not the city. Now, I don't know. I haven't confirmed that with anybody, but that's the only thing I've heard that has any substance to it. Because if you're talking about the red light cameras,
no.
okay, so what do
Light
you
cameras don't do anything.
Yeah, so right. And
I mean,
and they won't do anything.
in rural red Missouri, and that's Mark and Stephanie, if you don't know this now. You got Kansas City on the west, and you got St. Louis on the east, and you got Alabama in the middle. And in Alabama, which is 80% of our state in geography, the perception is you don't visit St. Louis. The only people that do visit are maybe people that are from, I don't know, Virginia or Tennessee or Minnesota that are coming in to visit the park or go to the Cardinals games or whatever. And they have they really have no direct perception. But I know down here in North Memphis or Jefferson County that people have the perception that it's not a very good place to go. And that's the one thing you have to get over, regardless of, you can throw any numbers out you want to and put all the money in you want to. But they read things like the policeman department's down. They read all the news they hear is negative. It's just negative news all the time. What do you think, Stephanie?
I will agree. I mean, every day you hear something negative. And then with you saying people are coming into St. Louis, you have the incident that just happened, a week ago, where the
Right.
young lady and her daughter were here visiting, going to the Drake concert, and a young gentleman uh, is going almost 70 miles per hour and hit them and killed them. This is not what people are expecting when they come to our city. They came to enjoy themselves, not to get killed. And that's not the first time. You had the other young lady from Illinois or Chicago, where she
Right.
lost both of her legs. Same thing, speeding downtown. I mean, and that's where the breast of majority of everything that's happening. You got the Washington Strip down there where all the clubs and the eateries are. You
Right.
have the ballpark down there. You have everything down there, and that's where people want to go. They don't want to come North County, West County per se. They want to go downtown.
And everybody knows and you probably know a little bit about the police department. Everybody knows that we're significantly reduced in the number of operating
Exactly.
officers in the city. And regardless of whether that would mean anything or not, it's the perception again.
Hmm.
But I think that perception is very much local. And the reason I say that is because because on the east and west coast, they think of St. Louis as a cow town. They really do. They think this is a real slow, quiet little farming community. That's what they think.
I know when I would go New York or go down to Georgia or something like that, and I say I'm from St. Louis, the first thing that came out of people's mouth was, "You from East St. Louis?" No, from St. Louis. So they had this thing.
Yeah,
They
there's
have this
another
thing
one.
to right
Sure.
that they compare. They think that East St. Louis and St. Louis is the same thing. I'm like, no, East St. Louis is in Illinois. St. Louis is just a matter of crossing the bridge. But no, it's two totally different states. Um, but they recognize that if you're from East St. Louis at that time, then it's bad, And I'm like, "Nah, not compared to St. Louis, but I get it. But if you go to Chicago, you might have some issues, and you can compare that to St. Louis City.
Well,
But
what's
now it's everywhere. It's St. Louis County. It's city. It's rolling into St. Charles, St. Peter's. It's rolling into Fenton. It's going everywhere.
Mhm.
well, what's this crazy story about Chicago all of a sudden being a problem, not because of the gangs, but because of the gangs that are coming in from Venezuela? What's that about? I don't even know that that's true, is it?
I don't know if it's
Um,
true, but I mean that's what you hear.
I mean, have you heard
yeah.
that? Because
Um,
I'll tell you where I heard it. Jamie is saying it, so that's where I heard it, and I don't believe that Chicago is being manhandled by Venezuelans.
well, you have a lot of gangs that are coming through Mexico into Texas. You
Yeah, well,
have
that's
tons
what
of
he's
them.
arguing. That's what he's
Yeah,
trying to say.
no, that and that's true. You got different gangs coming in from all over, and they're entering through um, Mexico into Texas into the United States. Um, and they're bringing their gang activity here. I don't know if you saw that documentary called Traffic It, but I saw it from the beginning to the end, and oh my God, it is something to see. This young lady went everywhere that you would think that we wouldn't be able to go because we would get killed. And literally the gangs and everybody from all over the world allowed her to come and see exactly what they do, how they do it, how they come over into the United States. And one of them was a young lady who actually had drugs, and they packed her van up with drugs. Before she crossed over, she did get pulled over, but they thought that they just told her to go about her business, so they really didn't stop her. And some of the guards at the border are actually paid to allow them to come over. So she came over and she ended up driving for hours, ended up in Chicago, went down to one little street, and all she does is sit there. She's told where to go, and then the gentleman comes, pops her trunks, takes the drugs, and then she goes back on her way and she makes the trip back into Mexico. So
Wow.
believe it or not, it's happening every day.
No, I believe that's happening, but I also know that people have been coming across that border for 120 years. They've been
Hmm.
coming across big time since 1900. And to think that you're
Whoa,
going
whoa,
to,
whoa, 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 whoa! That's not true.
it is
Okay,
true.
no, 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 no. Not like they're coming out. Not even close to what they've done in the last 2 years. Okay, they've come across the border, yes, but when they were caught, they were dealt with. Okay, period.
Well, not
They
quite
may not
because
have been dealt with in California, but they would have been dealt with here in Missouri or in Iowa or someplace else. But maybe not California, New York, or maybe in Iowa where you could put them to work in a hog factory or something like that for 10 cents an hour. Maybe not. And that's what feeds a lot of this stuff, but nothing like the numbers we have now.
well, let me say this before you go to those numbers. They were coming across in 1915, 16, and in 1917 they were really coming
For
across
God's
the
sakes.
wait, the United States was opened it up to bring them across because what they wanted to do is move them in here and transition them straight to Europe to fight for the United States. And all of a sudden, the Mexicans said, whoa, we're not going there anymore, because they didn't want to be shipped off to Europe to die. So I'm just saying, it's sort of funny how, we can play games with this thing at the border, but
it's not a game, Mark.
Well,
it's not a game. Ask those people in those Texas towns down there. It's not a game with them, and it's not a game in New York City anymore, nor is it in Chicago.
No, it's a game. It's a game with Greg Abbott.
No, it's not a game.
It's a great
no.
Game with,
what do you think a town of 15,000 is going to do with the people? You send them to a city, the cities that said that they could handle them. You send them to San Francisco, send them to Chicago, send them to Los Angeles, send them to New York. They said they were sanctuary cities. That's where you send them. He didn't do anything.
No, that's the game. Let me ask, why don't we do this? Why don't we just send, after these kids graduate from high school, why don't we send 1 million high school graduates to the border? We send them to all kinds of places all over the world where it's far more dangerous than what's going on down at the border. Send them down there, bring those people across, set them up here, get them some education so that they can speak English, so that they can fill out forms, so they can figure out how to find a place to live. And why don't we work it out so that these people coming in are not hated and feared and accused of things that they haven't done?
Doesn't make any difference. They're crossing the border illegally. And I just checked. I just checked on the numbers.
Sure.
The maximum number in those years was 900,000. That was the maximum. And it was during that 3-year period, right, like you said, right before World War I.
Sure.
That was it. 900,000.
Okay.
That was by far the most until now.
Okay, but remember, the population of our country was dramatically less too.
But
Mark, you were saying that bring them in, educate them, and all like this. I can't do that, and I'm gonna tell you why. I personally, besides seeing that documentary, I couldn't put some things together. So when I was working part-time at Walmart, I would see Hispanics come in. They were not cashing any checks. So they're coming in to the facility, to the money center, and they're not cashing checks. They have all this wad of money, and they're wiring it back to Mexico. So I didn't understand, they just sending money back to their family, trying to take care of their family. They working here illegally. They're getting paid up under the table, not paying taxes. But the first thing that they come over here and do, and they get Medicaid. They understand Medicaid, okay? They might not understand everything else, but they understand Medicaid that we pay because we are working every day. So we pay into that. But anyway, so when I was watching the documentary, what I found out is that once they cross over into the border and they are here in the United States and they finally get somewhat settled, the gang members in Mexico have paid a certain amount of money to them, but they have not paid all the money to get them past the border into the United States. In the meantime, they're now here in the United States working. And now, because they're over here, they have to send money back, which is almost triple to quadruple the amount that they actually are supposed to pay them off, or they will literally torture or kill a family member of theirs. So when they're supposed to be sending this money back, they're actually trying to save a family member.
Okay. And let me say, the United States is making that 1,000 times worse by making these people illegal. Because if they came over here and we made them legal,
wait, they're not making them illegal. They made themselves illegal.
No. The United States sets it up so that they try to come across and they're treated as illegal.
Okay, then there's no border at all. We have no country. You let everybody in, and the biggest thing right now is what's happening to individuals in New York and Chicago where places and jobs and everything else, all sorts of resources are taken up by illegal immigrants for people that are just trying to make a few bucks. South Side Chicago, not in the Bronx, New York. Let's take San Francisco north or south. Either way, Los Angeles. Let's go South Central. Let's do that. All these are taken away from people that are really trying to work. People that have been here, that are citizens, and it's holding on them. People in New York City are living in hotels. The illegal immigrants. Right. That's not right.
But that's because we're sending them there, and that's because they're illegal.
Where do they go if they don't go there, Mark?
Well, I'm telling you right now. You set up places where they can live at the border.
Whoa, what are you talking about?
Okay, we don't have places for our own people to live. Why are we going to set up some illegal people from other countries to come up? We're going to set them up good.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Set up our own people up.
I'll tell you what I'm talking about. If you know what the United States did in the 1930s,
I don't care what they did in the 1930s.
No, wait. When the Okies were trying to get into California, and the United States government set up barracks for them there, showers.
Mark, they were U.S. citizens, okay?
Well, sure, but they didn't know.
Talking about two different things.
But they didn't know much.
This administration that's in there right now they want it for a variety of reasons, economic reasons mainly, because our fecundity rate in this country is what, 1.6?
Exactly.
And we need 2.1 or 2.2 just to sustain ourselves, regardless of the race. It doesn't make any difference.
Bring them in. Bring them in.
What's that? Okay, I have an issue. You have big, huge companies. You have large insurance companies. I can name them. United Healthcare, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Cigna. You have, Walmart. You have AT&T. You have all these large companies, okay, that are now outsourcing to other countries, paying them maybe $2-3 an hour, which is a whole lot of money for them in that country, and we cannot get good jobs here because they're outsourcing elsewhere.
That's true.
And then we have homeless people here that we can't put up in a hotel, but it's okay to allow someone else to cross over into our border illegally, make money illegally, and come and live here. No. We gotta stop it somewhere. It has to stop somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you right now, again, Michael's got a comment on here, and he would know because he lives in Arizona. And he's saying first that they don't have enough judges to even handle these people that come across. And the second,
so why do you leave them across?
Well, I would let them in for the exact reason that you gave, which you don't like, but it's your reason, and that is that we need people. We need young.
No, we don't need illegal people. We do not need that.
We can make
an orderly program. And the problem is with it right now. Everybody, and it's not Democrats, because a lot of Democrats are on the side now. They want a wall. They want some sort of stopping this right now, the hemorrhaging. As right now, it's bad enough.
What do they know? What makes you think that they've got an answer? Why can't they, the people who want a wall? So they want a wall just like a psycho that used to be in the
just
White
like
House.
Every other country, a decent country in the world. Israel has a wall. Poland doesn't want people crossing their border. Every other country in the world, Mexico.
Poland brought Poland brought in an enormous number of Ukrainians, and they are housing them, they are educating them, they're doing everything for them. And I have to tell you, it's a smart thing that they're doing.
But they're doing that because there's a war.
They're doing that because they're decent and because there's a war.
And it's a war. But I mean, these individuals are just coming over to come over. Don't get me wrong. A lot of them are probably coming over to try to make a better living for themselves.
Sure they are.
Okay, but at the same token, we have to look at our own country. We have to see where we're suffering as a country. We have to learn how to take care of our own before we start taking care of others. And that's the problem. We can't just let everybody over here and take care of them, put our tax dollars towards them, and then we're suffering in the end. Again, I have an issue with working every single day, knowing that my tax dollars is going towards these individuals coming over across the border. They don't have no medical coverage and they come straight over and get, like I said, Medicaid. I personally have worked into the emergency rooms. I personally know that they'll come in there. They act like they can't speak one word of English. But you ask them, do they have Medicaid? They throw that card out like they getting ready to buy up a whole thing of groceries. Okay, so understand that these are our tax dollars that we work hard for. They come over here and work up under the table, don't pay taxes, and then they live with 10 of them in an apartment building, a 1 bedroom apartment, and they making all this money. Now take it again, they sending some of it back home, but they piling it up, and you have the gangs that they are bringing over here. It's a lot of negative than it is positive with this.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you all these things are happening because we make them illegal and we make it.
We don't make them illegal.
Yes,
They've always been illegal.
Well, they shouldn't be. I mean, I know that.
So you're saying that everybody that comes over, we should give every single person that comes across that border asylum.
Process
unless
we know they're criminals. Process them and bring them in and do exactly what we did when the Okies tried to get into California.
Oh, no, here we go again.
So what are we going to do with our own people?
We're going to take
our people that are suffering, our people that are homeless, our people that don't have access, that we just talked about yesterday, that don't have access to medical care. Yeah, what are we going to do with our own people, Mark? It makes no sense to bring them over and give them cupcakes and cookies, and we have our own people over here gnawing on a bone. Come on.
We're the wealthiest country on the planet.
But we're not taking care of our own. We might be, but we're not taking care of our own. But we take care of everybody else but ourselves.
No, but we can, and we should. We should take care of ours, and then we should take care of the people who come here who become ours. We could do both.
Hey,
Stephanie. The United States has unlimited money, don't we, Jim?
Hey, Joe.
Stephanie, remember when you asked me how I was doing today, and I told you before the show or after? Now you know what I'm talking about. All right,
Mark. Let me tell you, Mark is my buddy. That's the love of my life right there. You can't tell me nothing about Mark, but we can go at it all day. He know I'll go at it with him.
Yeah, but he ain't good for my blood pressure. Okay, yeah, it just
yeah.
In fact, I'm going to have a little beer here.
Yeah, have some beer.
I'm not going to tell you what's in my cup.
Well, don't worry. There's nothing but water in his. And let me say, because we got to do some business here, because we're not commies, are we? No.
I don't know. I was going to ask you, just when did you leave the Communist Party? I'm not sure. But
well, I'll give you the dates when I'm through doing some business. Yeah, so the first thing we want to talk about is a great restaurant, which is Wenty's, and that's in Chesterfield Valley, and it's at 18,000 Chesterfield Airport Road. I mean, come on, Mark, let's get this straight. You're not Joe Biden. And 18,000 Chesterfield Airport Road. They've got great food, and I happen to love, the baby back ribs, onion rings, pizza. That's high up on my list, but other people may like other things, but Wenty's has got it all. And
I heard you was treating for lunch on Saturday at Wenty's.
Well, that could be true, but one thing, it wouldn't be because I lost any bets, because I'm always right. I usually I say I predicted it, but at any rate, I can say Wenty's is a great place to eat. And it's 18,000 Chesterfield Airport Road. Again, Wenty's. Now, if you're looking for jewelry, which I know you're always looking for more jewelry, right, Steph?
Yep. Yeah. I am.
Yeah. Now, actually, Joe might want some jewelry too. When I say jewelry, medals. He likes medals because he gives out medals to people who win certain things. And then he's got a special speech he gives. I'm not going to tell the whole story here, but that you could probably also get at Jules on Hampton, and that's at 4506 Hampton. And in addition, you can get watches and get your watches fixed, and you can get jewelry that they make, and you can ask them to make things for you. And they're very creative. They're very excellent. You can buy and sell jewelry and coins and everything. Jules on Hampton. They are outstanding. Now, finally, Joe, you're dressed as far down as, you can get, I guess. But, I'm dressed the other way up. And that's from the St. Louis Suit Company in Clayton. 29 years they've been there. And I've been dressing this way for 29 years, and they've been dressing me, and they are terrific. They're on the corner of Forsyth and Central in Clayton. And again, they've got the $5 ties, and you cannot beat those $5 silk ties. Again, you could get those ties for $50 from Donald J. Trump. And the only problem is they probably aren't silk, and they'd probably choke you. But besides all that, the place to go is the St. Louis Suit Company on the corner of Central and Forsyth in Clayton. St. Louis Suit Company. So, Joe, I'm not very happy right now because I've just gotten some new information. And I'll tell you, it's always something. Have you picked up the latest on the Trump trials?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
I just saw something pop up, but I couldn't get it.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the Supreme Court has agreed to hear this ridiculous immunity case.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. As if the president of the United States could actually claim that he's immune to prosecution for any kind of a criminal activity once he's out of office. We know that that's not true. And if they're going to claim that he's immune from prosecution, that would be the worst thing I could possibly imagine. In the meantime, they've set the date for the oral arguments in April. So they're playing games up there because that this is exactly what Trump wants. All he cares about is buying time so that he doesn't have to have his case heard. But when he ends up as the president of the Prisoners Association, I promise you, he will be prosecuted. But he'll be in jail.
I don't think he's gonna last. If he goes to prison, he's not gonna last in there.
Yeah, well, they have a way of protecting him, and he has to have Secret Service and all that. So whatever they do, they do. I mean,
now, how you go to prison and you still have Secret Service to protect you while you're in prison?
He's got it for life.
Take your butt in there and act like everybody else. Be a prisoner.
He's got it for life. But I just can't believe that just came out.
How you got that for life if you're a prisoner?
Well,
if you've been convicted of a felony, you would think at that given point in time, all of that is gone.
Yeah. Well, how about this one? I love this. This is my favorite. I mean, they must feel sorry for him because, he's been begging the courts to forget the bond for the $500 million. And the other day he said he was too rich to have to put up that money. Now he's saying today he can't come up with the money. He just doesn't have the money. So he says, how about if you do this for $100 million? Will you do that? Well, they're not going to. Letitia James is going to take everything, including that fake tie that he's got hanging around his neck. Joe?
Well, I mean, what's your point?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, that one side, half the country will say the same thing you're saying. The other half the country won't agree with you. And so there we are.
Yeah, well, I'll be right.
It doesn't make any difference who's right or who's wrong. It's who wins. Because at that point in time, and that's what happened in the last election, it's just 50-50. Countries.
And so just off the top of your head, you think he's going to win?
I have no clue.
Okay.
Against
I
who?
have a clue.
Wait a minute. Against who?
Well, he's going to run against Joe Biden. If he runs against,
I mean, you're sure of that?
well, it's either Joe Biden or Michelle.
Well, you're not sure then, right?
Well, it's Joe Biden or Michelle.
Michelle who?
What's wrong with Kamala?
Obama. Huh?
What's wrong with Kamala?
Michelle already said she wasn't running.
Well, Michelle could say whatever she wants, but if Joe Biden is out of the picture, Michelle is the winner.
Well, wait a minute. So if she doesn't run, what's wrong with Kamala? I mean, she's the next in line. Why not her?
Because the most popular person in the United States today is Michelle Obama.
Yeah, the other person's not even running.
Well, she will be.
Okay, that's
how you know that.
Well, there's some people who will push hard. No,
you know something I don't know.
You
got a huge crystal ball over there. I want to touch that crystal ball.
Yeah, I do. And here's the thing.
The best thing the Democrats could do right now is let Trump get elected and let the market crash, because it's getting up to that point right now into silly, as you well know,
right?
Silly area.
I'm gonna have to dig my own fallout shelter if he get reelected.
That would be too dangerous, honestly.
Well, I mean, that would probably guarantee a Democrat administration for a long time then, because as I know, the markets and with the interest rate inversion and the financials of this, I mean, it's kind of like pushing on a string. It's not going to go much further. Year, two, not much. And then we'll have contraction.
Well, I know also they are lowering interest rates in China, desperately trying to stop the problem that you're describing.
I know.
So it's so funny. I hear people all the time saying that China owns us, which is such foolishness.
No, they're in a heck of an economic contraction right now.
Yes, they are.
Big cities, real estate's gone down the drain. Cities are empty. No, they depend on us, and mutual reciprocity is important with the whole world and the United States, but especially with China. Russia, not so much, but China, yeah. And I think, the boogeyman in us, and you know well how I feel, is not with Russia or China. And we can talk about that later, but I don't think those two countries, Russia, China, and the United States really depend upon each other and economically.
I know you want to tell me about how you love Netanyahu, so...
Well, I mean, I like his stand. Yeah, I think he cannot afford to listen to what everybody else thinks, because what everybody else thinks gets the same situation happening to him every, 3, 6, 9, 12 years. It can't happen. It can't happen again, at least as far as they're concerned.
Well, it does happen every time to them. I mean, usually they're not caught off guard the way they were this time. And I know that's the worst part of it for them. They have always been in a position where when some group of Arab countries goes nuts. That
isn't some group of Arab countries. That's the Palestinians that are supported by the Iran. Okay, Palestinians couldn't do anything without military support. The Hezbollah couldn't without Iran support, or maybe some from Syria, but mostly Iran.
No, it's Iran. Yeah, it's Iran.
So you have that situation. It's unfortunate, but war is war. And it's very unfortunate, particularly for the Palestinians that probably have no idea about the intent of Hezbollah.
Probably no idea at all. And listen, the crazy part is they are widely hated throughout the Arab world. And yet the Arab world uses them, or certainly has used them over the years. But now it's sort of an unusual situation, because on one side, you've got the Sunnis who are in Saudi Arabia. And on the other side, you've got the Shia who are in Iran. And so, Israel is sort of caught between them both, with the United States caught between them all. It's really a shameful situation. And caused by Netanyahu. That's why.
No, he wouldn't have done. Hey, Stephanie, while I have some adult beverage here, I'm going to have an adult beverage. Go take off after him. Go.
I'm holding my head right now.
I
I'm
know.
holding my head.
No, wait a second.
Because I'm
Okay.
waiting on Mike to get in here because Mike don't like him either. So I'm waiting on.
Yeah.
Woo!
You know that Netanyahu was sending money directly to Hamas through Qatar. Qatar asked, "Do you want these people funded?" And Netanyahu said,
No, I don't know any of that.
Keep
I
it
don't
going.
know that.
Well,
All I know is
it's a fact.
Hamas broke in, crossed the border at Israel, and chopped off babies' heads, took a number of hostages, and just brutalized in a flash, almost like a flash mob. Within 30 minutes, it's in and out, and that's how they pulled it off. And
Well, it wasn't 30 minutes. It was hours, actually.
Hours. Okay.
Well, no, it was hours, and Israel was caught flat-footed again because of Netanyahu.
It's irrelevant. They should not. I mean, to be flat, it's flat-footed. Would you expect that to happen when they come in and just
expect it to never happen in Israel? I would expect Israel to not only be on top of it, but that's the other point. Israel had this plan. They had the entire plan in its hands, and Netanyahu and his people said, "Forget it. It's never going to happen."
I don't believe that.
Well, it's what they're saying. It's what the intelligence people have said.
Yeah, we see where intelligence has got us so far with Iraq 20 years ago. Okay, intelligence to me is just a figment of what they want you to know. Period. We don't know anything really, and we shouldn't.
Yeah, the government's gonna tell us what we want to hear. That's for sure. They're gonna put out what they want us to hear. They're not gonna put out what the reality of everything is.
Well, you've got that little Google machine in front of you. I think you ought to look up, if not now, after in 10 minutes, go look up the money that was being sent.
I don't care about that. That's irrelevant. That is totally irrelevant to what Hamas did when they crossed the border and killed babies and terrorized. I don't care what deals they made monetary. That's why money doesn't mean anything to me in situations like this.
Okay, but they could have been stopped, is the point.
Could have been. What do you know? What do you know that could have been stopped? What do you know about a uniform or even guarding anything or anything like that? You don't know anything about that.
Well, luckily I don't. And you know me, there's no way in any period of time that I would have allowed myself to be in that position. But I can certainly read, and I know that if money was being given by Qatar to Hamas with the approval of Netanyahu, that's trouble.
No, come on. That's irrelevant. That doesn't make any difference. Has nothing to do with that attack. It was an unprovoked attack. Period.
Well, look, and I know that the people who did what you're describing as an unprovoked attack, that's been going on since 1949.
Oh, it's been going on for 3,000 years.
Well, but in modern times, it's going on since 1949 and since Israel became a state. And the fact is that we're still going through the same mess, which is how do you shut it down? How do you stop it?
See, Stephanie, he's for a two-state solution. And the two-state solution was created in 1948, okay? And that's why it hasn't worked and it won't work. It should be a one-state solution, period. One. And that's the only way that this thing can be set. Two-state will never work, hasn't worked.
Well, you know why Israel doesn't want to do that, right?
Oh, sure.
I mean,
why do you want to take on a case of tuberculosis? I mean, give me tuberculosis. No, they don't want to do that.
No, that's part of it. But also they want to maintain a Jewish state, and I understand why. You got too many people who remember what Adolf Hitler did, and they want a Jewish state. They want their own protection. Now, you could have a second state that would give respect to the Palestinians, and the truth of the matter is, that the moment the Palestinians stop killing people, the United States will give them so much money that they won't know how to count it all.
Well, that's speculation. I'm not sure.
Well, we do it to everybody else.
No, we don't do it to everybody else.
Well,
but it's in our best interest. Look, it's obsequious. We're trying to make it so that we're not too harsh on them, so they don't do bad things to us, which they could do any second they wanted to inside this country.
We give Egypt $1 billion every year not to cause any more trouble in the Middle East.
That's not why Egypt does that. Egypt knows that it will lose in a war, and they got a good thing going for them. Okay, their economy, everything else is good. They're in a great part on the Mediterranean. They won't even let anybody from Palestine in their country.
Well, that's where I was going next, because you know what they said here the last few days. They said if any Palestinians are allowed or are pushed into Egypt, they say that 40-year peace deal is over. They don't want them. Don't put those people in their country because they don't want them. Period. They want their billion.
Let Stephanie in here. We're just bloviating about it.
I mean, I'm sitting over here, especially when you're talking about don't let them in our country. But I'm going back to don't let none of them in our country again. How are we? How are we safe? I mean, at the end of the day, you let any of them in. You know, this is our issue now. You let them in the country, and what do? They try to kill us. So, you know, there's a bomb here, a shooting there. They point. I don't feel like it's bad enough we have to duck and dodge our own people on a daily basis, not knowing what they gonna do us when they snap their wig. But when you're sitting over here and you don't know what your neighbor getting ready to do because they from a foreign country and they walking around Ubering. you never know. You don't know what any individual country really has going on and how it's going to affect the United States. You truly don't.
Well, have we answered any of the comments that have come in?
Yeah, I've been, monitoring it. How about let an Arab country give the Palestinians some land for a state? Oh yeah, they don't want them, and they don't. They never have.
Well, Antarctica sounds good this time of year.
Yeah, Jordan doesn't want them. Egypt doesn't want them. No one wants them.
We don't want them.
Okay, but what we could do is set up that second state and let them be where they are. Let them have Gaza and let them leave Israel alone. And if they don't want to do it,
Mark, it's not in the book, and you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly. So why don't you put Chinese and American troops on the border and tell both sides, leave each other alone.
Yeah.
Did you say Chinese and American?
That's what he said. Yeah, he said that.
Well, why not?
And you wonder why I'm drinking beer now, okay?
No, really. That would be a credible force. It would be viewed as a group that would be neither on one side or the other.
Okay, well,
I mean, we've only got a few minutes left, Joe.
Joe, I don't know.
Don't get too worked up. I mean,
Well, I just feel sorry for Stephanie in this. She had to sit through this bloviation like this, listening to unfounded remarks by the host.
Listen, just go check Google when we get off the air. I haven't said one thing that is
okay. Wait a minute. You say Google one more time. Now you know the rule on Google.
Yeah,
as an instructor, you should be ashamed of yourself telling somebody to go believe something on Google.
Well, no,
you know that is not a legitimate site to go and get information.
No, you can go. First of all, you can go to scholar.google.com, and that is a site where they have all credible university research, and that one is perfectly safe.
Well, then say that. Don't say Google.
Okay. Well, how about scholar.google.com?
Yeah, we know about those scholars in that
scholar.
university research, don't we?
Well, as I say, you're a
Comes out of
scholar.
Harvard and Columbia and Princeton and all that stuff. Yeah. I'd rather have something come out of, I don't know, Southeast Missouri State, where it's at least going to come out, halfway rational than some of the ethereal crap that comes out of the Ivy League schools. But that's
just Look it up in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal.
New York Times, there's another one.
Well, wait. I mean, if the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal both say it, it's probably true.
See, you're buying into the Kool-Aid. It's just opinions on what you ought to know about opinions. You've just thrown out at least 30 or 40 this hour.
Absolutely. Look, the thing, well, depends. But look, here's the thing that's terrible. We can have this conversation. That's great. But truly, Donald has said that if he became president, he would take over all the networks that he doesn't like, shove them off the air, and that would be the end of it. And listen, and that is exactly, number one, what they do in Russia, in Hungary under Viktor Orban. I mean,
this is just all speculation, opinion. You have no idea what
he says it. About. He says it. I mean, that's like the Jews saying, "Don't believe Hitler." He's kidding.
He said he was going to be a dictator on the first day. All right, and you know what he was talking about: undo all the presidential things that Biden did away with. You know that exactly what he was talking about. He wasn't talking about taking over the fifth estate or anything else. But that's okay, Mark. We'll let this go because the name of the show is Showdown.
Well, it's that. It's that. No, look, I can't wait to get the details when I get out of here on what the Supreme Court has done. But I know that if they've set those arguments for April, they're out to delay these cases. But the truth is, they can't delay Alvin Bragg in New York City. And that's the amazing part, because that was supposed to be the least important case. He is going to be convicted in New York. The trial's in March. Nobody can stop it. And then what's he going to do when he's a convicted felon who owes $500 million, which he now agrees he doesn't have? He's broke.
You're talking about cash.
Forever.
He could convert that. That's not important. You're talking about Donald Trump now. That has nothing to do with anything. Stephanie, take us out of the show. Take me out of my misery, okay?
All righty then. Okay. At the bottom line is Trump needs to be held accountable. He should be treated like any other criminal. At the end of the day, a felony is a felony. He should not be walking out, not paying people at the end of the day. Okay. Period.
Well, he's not paying people, Stephanie. He would be paying the government.
Yeah,
he's supposed to be paying the government, but he still owes one lady some like $300 million or whatever. He hasn't paid her.
Stephanie, he wouldn't even pay the piano tuner at Trump Tower, so don't worry. But look, let's end.
I would be sitting right there on his car every day until he paid my black ass. I ain't gonna even lie.
I would too. By the way, Wendy's for great food, St. Louis Suit Company for the best clothes, and Jewels on Hampton, 4506 Hampton, for the greatest jewelry and a terrific experience. And Joe, you could go down there and meet Al. Al and Joe. Sounds like a great story.
Yeah, sounds like a vaudeville team. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Charles. Just want to do a hey out to Charles out there.
There you go. And listen, thanks, Joe. And, what do they say? Brandon, let's go, Brandon. Is that?
And then next you say good night.
Good night.
Good night.